All right, Rich, whenever you're ready.
All right. Brian, we need to stay calm. We need to stay calm, get our game faces on. Oh, are we live right now?
Yes, we are live now.
Oh my God. Welcome everybody to another episode of League One on the Rocks. My name is Rich. You can find me on Twitter at I'm Rich, but I'm not. Joined as always by Brian opposite me in the live stream here. Brian, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Hectic day, but we'll get through it somehow.
And if you guys are watching over on the YouTube channel, you see that there's an extra face in the frame here. That's because we have a special guest tonight, North Carolina's head coach, John Bradford. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank you for taking the time to come on the show.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
So as we start every single one of our shows, Brian, what are you drinking tonight?
I just ran upstairs and grabbed a bush light that I have in my fridge.
There you
A
go.
nice tall boy, so I don't have to get up if the kids aren't the ones getting me up this time.
Nice. So last night I went out with a friend after I had a meeting there in Omaha, and we decided to go to Spirit World, which is over by Baxter Arena, and I decided to get a 12-year Scotch while I was there, and I'm excited to crack into this one. While I was there, he was trying to tell me or ask me which ones I've had and which ones I like, and I told him I like Glenlivet, 12, and I've had, I really like Elijah Craig as well. Um, so he pointed out a couple bourbons, he pointed out a bit of scotch, and settled on this guy. So I'm going to break into this one.
Very nice.
Ooh, it smells good.
Tim already with Ranting Blue Penguin Media saying corn can or no, it is not a corn can. And Alex Ashton, League One updater, saying Bush Light versus 12-year-old Scotch. Amazing. Yeah. The dichotomy is a little bit crazy.
Now, John, to get into the interview here, I'm going to let Brian ask this one because he actually discovered this one, and I thought this was a good question. So I'm going to let him take over that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Coach, just going over your career here. You played college ball with the Furman Paladins from 1998 to 2001, and Greenville Triumph plays their home games now at Furman Stadium. So, is it kind of weird to see your alma mater be occupied by a opposing team?
Yeah, I think it's kind of special actually. And when we were down there and played them, a month ago or whenever it was, had an opportunity to go out with Coach Allison, who's the Furman University men's head coach, who's still down there, and he's still coaching from the time that I was there as well. So it's pretty cool to be back on campus, and interesting that the Triumph is playing there. But it's a lovely place, Greenville, and obviously the Furman campus is lovely as well. So good.
That's cool. And just announced just a couple hours ago, North Carolina FC forward Cole Frame was loaned to Rio Grande Valley in the championship for the remainder of the 2023 season. Can you give us some of your thoughts on that loan deal?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of details that are in the loan deal that obviously weren't in the press release and that kind of thing. So, RGV specifically and their roster and their needs that they may have, and then looking at our roster and obviously trying to help our young players have opportunities for them and that kind of thing. And none of the financial specifics were disclosed in the release or whatever. But I know Cole's going to make the most of the opportunity. He's been down there for the last couple of weeks in training. And seems to be doing well. So we wish him the best.
Very cool. And I think he's been a part of your club for a few years now. 20 years old. He's had 40 appearances with the League One club. I mean, man, that's quite a lot of appearances for at such a young age. That's got to speak highly to the academy that you have set up down there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Cole's a great example of a club product. Where he started at a young age. I think he started as playing recreation in Castle, which was the former NCFC youth, as it turned into NCFC and everything, and spent all of his time coming through the academy. He was in training with the first team when he was 16, 17, and then signed at 18. And was a little bit more featured in the 2015 or 2021 season, with the roster that we had, and in the move, initially to League One, and had some really promising appearances and that kind of thing. And but I think for him, and this kind of happens to every young player at some stage, you need to leave the environment that you've been in for so long, and for him to have been in the club for 15 years, and it's just crazy. So I think it's time to experience something else and get into a new environment, and kind of be out of the comforts of home, and out on your own and growing up a little bit for the first time. So excited to see, not just on the field but off the field, how Cole kind of takes this opportunity and runs with it.
Cool.
Very nice. And yeah, that kind of works right into another question. So you were the assistant coach and academy director for NCFC from 2006 to 2021. Um, how big of an importance to you is building that academy system, and how important do you think it is to the league as a whole for these teams to be building sound academy systems to be able to bring homegrown players up and then bring them into the league?
No, I think it's massive. First on the resume point, I think they've got it wrong. I started with Castle, former NCFC at 2006, but certainly wasn't the assistant coach for the pro team at that stage, and wasn't the academy director until 2013. But I think that's also kind of part of my evolution, which is parallel towards player development. For me, it's been coach development, and having the opportunity to kind of move up into different areas within the youth club, and then have opportunities in 2012 for the first time, coming in with the Carolina Railhawks at that time as kind of a assistant coach that would come in and pick up cones, and just observe and kind of see what the environment looked like, and try at that moment to initiate having more of our academy players starting to come into that environment. And then it's kind of taken years of advancement of getting it to the point that it's at now, where it's a staple of our professional club, is knowing that we have academy players that are coming into the training environment. We have opportunities for players that merit and earn opportunities to sign professional contracts. But I think what we want to stand for is opportunity and development. And I think, like you said, it's critical for clubs that want to have a long tenure, that want to have a long standing, to have a connected academy that's producing players year after year, and all that. And I think NCFC Youth is the largest youth club in the United States. I don't know if you guys know that, but it's 16,000 players in one youth club. And I think there's other ones that are affiliates that have locations in different states and that kind of stuff that are connected. But for us, we're the single largest. But why that's relevant is there's a massive foundation, but we have to make sure we're doing right by the top end players that are in that academy program. So giving them tangible opportunities into the first team, and not giving them anything, but allowing them to earn things, I think is important. And then that also speaks towards the players that come in, the pro guys that have years of experience. And you get different personalities of guys that are not bothered by the academy guys coming in, and then you have others that they're solely focused on winning games and their careers and that kind of thing. And so for us, it's important when we're recruiting players to come to NCFC that they know what we stand for and what it's going to be like and how it is. And I think the culture of this year's group has been really great. When we have young players come in, there's a lot of guys that you see talking to them on the side and spending time with them in the locker room or right off the field after training, and trying to give them advice and thoughts. And that's one of the best things that I can see as a coach, is kind of generations of players learning off one another, and taking the time to be respectful in that way too. So
And so for people that are watching or listening, the merger that he's talking about is happened in 2017, and it happened between Capital Area Soccer League and Triangle Football Club Alliance, and they merged, and they're now the North Carolina FC Youth. And it brought coaches, it brought resources, it brought facilities. So this has been a huge development, and I'm glad that you said that it's grown to 16,000, because the last figure I found was that it was right around 14,000, but still the
mhm.
biggest in the country. And obviously, you spoke to how pivotal it's been to the success for NCFC, in terms of recruitment and just overall success. Um, when you're talking to players or parents, if they approach you about, expressed interest in joining NCFC, what is your elevator speech to sort of solidify, their application to the academy?
Yeah, I mean, I think being able to reference some of the players that we've had that are either currently in the roster and are getting opportunities. I mean, Nick Holiday is an easy one that comes to mind. Nick Holiday's 17-year-old goalkeeper, is the only 17-year-old that's starting in in a professional league regularly, in the United States at the stage he's at. But I think for young players to be able to see someone who joined our academy at 12 years old, was in the first team environment by 14, and signed a professional contract when he turned 15, it speaks to the opportunity that the academy is afforded for those players that earn it. And so I think that's one part of it, the professional thing. But the other thing is, for our academy, a lot of pride that we take in other outcomes and pathways. We have a phenomenal record of producing college players that go on and play collegiately, and then either join professionally after that, or join the workforce and become better people through that. But I think that what we're trying to represent from the academy standpoint is that you're going to grow, you're going to develop, you're going to have opportunities. We're going to play in multiple leagues, and we're going to be tied in with a professional first team that can challenge players as they have opportunities too. We also have the USL 2 team, NCFC U23 is what we call it. But it's not necessarily U23. We're kind of like the Atletico Bilbao of USL 2, where it's either you are a former NCFC Academy player and now you're in college, you've come back to us over the summer, or you're a current Academy player. And we give a lot of opportunities to our U19 and U17 players in that USL 2 league, because it's such a stretch, it's such a challenge to play against 22, 23 players that have had 3-4 years of college experience playing in the league. And so it's a calculated effort from top to bottom in terms of youth all the way up to the pro, to understand that development doesn't always put you in first place in every league you play in, but it's affording these opportunities to these young players to be challenged and stretched.
And Nick Holiday even had some, save of the week contenders even 2 years ago. I mean, if you're saying that he's, 17, 18 years old right now, I mean, this guy was getting save of the week nominations back when, I mean, he was learning how to drive a car.
No, absolutely. And what we've tried to get away from him was in 2021, when he would get moments within games. Obviously we've kind of grown his numbers of matches that he's had over the last 3 years and everything, but we didn't want him facing, I think his first start at Chattanooga, he faced a record number of shots in the first game or something like that. I think it was like 17 shots or something crazy. And so we're going, okay, this is not exactly, the trial by fire immediately kind of thing to do. But there's a lot to be said for a young man that can step into an environment and still be 15 years old and everything that comes with that, but face the challenges that he's had and grown with it. And his maturity has grown, his ability to understand what it means to be a part of a locker room versus just a young player that's happy to be there. But now there's a little bit more weight on his shoulders. But yeah, Nick is a special young man, and he's got a bright future ahead of him for sure.
Yeah, definitely does. And I mean, you can kind of see that his development over the last like few years just kind of speaks to um, your coaching and your coaching staff. Um, because the difference between when he first came onto the league and now, I mean, he's a completely different goalkeeper, but still has that edge that some of those younger guys do have, that maybe some of the more seasoned players don't.
No, I totally agree, and I think the biggest growth area we've seen with Nick, I think with young goalkeepers specifically, because it's such an individual position, right, within the team, you see the amount of pressure they get under, and then the ability just to clear the ball, go long almost every time, and that's kind of the safety response, right? But I think Nick has really grown in terms of the ball at his feet, and us being able to use him in possession buildup, and making good choices, especially in transition and under pressure. And he's going to continue to get stuff wrong for sure. That's part of it. But I think where he is now to where he was a couple years ago, and I probably play a very small role in that. It's more Mike McGinty and the goalkeeping staff and his teammates and everybody else that's working with him, and the other goalkeepers, Tor Saunders and Trevor Mulqueen, that are with him, this year, and he's had great people with him over the last couple of years as well, that he's been able to learn from and everything. But yeah, it's fun to watch him, and like I said, bright future ahead, and he turns 18 in January of this coming year. And so kind of part of our obviously long-term plan for him is that there'll be a destination for him as he moves on. And we don't want him playing at North Carolina FC and USL League One for 10 years. It's the idea is to get experience and opportunity, and then take the next kind of step in his pathway as things move on.
And I mean, you've been a figment around that club for, like Brian said, since 2006. And there's a culture that's around North Carolina, and you've hinted at it, time and time again, in this interview, talking about growth and development, and growing from a youth player into a professional player and gaining that maturity. How difficult was it being a part of the staff that was implementing that culture, and how did you define what culture meant to you and the club?
No, it's a good question. I mean, I think, in 2021, the club makes the decision to go from USL Championship to USL League One. It gives us an opportunity to further cement the connection between the academy and the first team, because the League One is, I think, suited our club more at that time, as we were trying to go towards more young players coming in. And so again, as you're recruiting players that are not at the 16, 17, 18-year old, they might be the 24, 25, 26-year old that really wants to use the professional season to hopefully move up into a higher league, or whatever it may be for them. I think being very direct and very honest about who we are and what we're trying to be, is the starting point. What you don't want to do is have a bunch of veterans come in and then be shocked and surprised of the young guys that are in and around, because then it's going to be, we didn't know it was going to be like this, and we don't like this, or whatever. So, and then, fast forward to the year we're in now, where I think it's a better blend of, quality players that do have some experience and more years kind of on their resume, mixed with young players. And I think a lot of that is the club model of where we're going, but part of that too is, being competitive again. I think in 2021 it was partly of, youth development and all that, and it was partly coming out of COVID, and knowing that what's the attendance going to look like, what are the finances going to look like, all that kind of stuff. And so I think this year, it's been a better roster support blend in terms of who we tried to recruit. And certainly when you look at the table, it's, people think that I'm doing a great job. It's just get better players, and have an opportunity to have them grow and connect with one another, and that kind of thing. So, I think that's kind of the evolution of it, but just being direct and honest about who we are, and then just letting that mission kind of guide our daily activity. It's just knowing that whether it's in the academy and this is our mission, what we're trying to do, and playing players up. We've got players on our 13s that play up with the 15s, and it's the same premise of a player that's on the 19s that plays up with the first team. And so, you see this at every step of the kind of connection between the academy and the first team. And like you said, it kind of goes with the club's reputation and what we've tried to do. And I've tried to learn from so many great people, that I've worked with at NCFC since 2006, and kind of seeing, as the U.S. soccer landscape evolves, whether it was the U.S. Soccer Development Academy, and then different leagues and youth national teams and things that have kind of changed over the last 15 years. But our clubs just try to be able to be agile in that kind of landscape, but at the same time stay true to what mission we have for our players. So, but it's been really exciting, and I feel very fortunate to have the longevity I've had at this club, and I look forward to another 17 years.
Awesome. So I mean, a part of building that culture that you guys are doing, obviously, there's going to be things that you have to do with the team to build that kind of bond together. Is there any activity that you favor as maybe your favorite team bonding activity?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the guys spend a good amount of time, in and amongst each other. All of the player apartments are at the same place, and even the guys that have wives or whatever have chosen to kind of still be in that same complex, where they don't have to be. They could be at different places. But I think that speaks towards the group and what they like to do. As far as team bonding, I mean, I'm I think old school in the way that, a nice team dinner at the beginning of preseason, get everybody together, and then find the moments where, it's a good moment within this stretch of games or this stretch of the season to step off the field, get together in some kind of activity, and do something, whether that's a meal or whatever. But yeah, the other part of it is allowing the players to lead that. I think, for me as a coach, um, having a voice in the right moments is extremely important to me. If you're the guy that's all the time, you're on them on the field, but then you're getting them together all the time off the field. Sometimes it's kind of overkill. And so for me, the organic ability to have the players know what it means when we're on the field inside the lines. This is what it's like. But when we're out, I think they all know that our staff is there for them in every way possible. But we also encourage them to set the culture for how it is, because the best locker rooms that I've been a part of are those where the players are genuinely interested in one another and spend time with each other off the field. And then that obviously plays its role in terms of what you see on the field.
When you're in the locker room with the players, do they ever let you take control of the aux cable for the locker room music?
No, they don't. And to be fair, we've got a lot of really quality DJs. So, we've got our own little separate place. that's right around the corner from the locker room to the coach's office kind of thing. So every now and then we'll get our own music going, and there's a pretty drastic difference between what we're listening to and what I'm hearing in the locker room. So we're gonna let them keep going with it.
So, Coach, as far as this year, you guys have gotten off to a really hot start. And the difference between 2021 and this season, or excuse me, 2022 and this season. At first, let's see, I had it right here with me. Sorry about that. I had it written down at work, and let me find the exact numbers that I have. Okay, so for 2022, you guys started the season in your first 12 matches 5-2-5 with 18 goals allowed and a -1 goal differential. This season, you've started off 7-1-4 with 14 goals allowed and a +3 goal differential. And is that something, was this defense something that you emphasized coming into this season that has kind of propelled you off to this start that you guys are in right now, sitting in first place in the league?
I think so. I mean, 100% in terms of what we identified, we wanted to go out and recruit and then, bringing those players in and that kind of thing. And so you look at that, and then part of that too is also who do you retain, from 2022 that were important pieces that are getting better and that kind of thing. And so, Gustavo Fernandez, Nelson Flores, Chris Lou Young were all part of the team last year, and you can see them growing and developing and getting better and that kind of thing. And then be very specific to bring in the players that we did. Dana Navarro, DJ Benton, David Garcia. Came to us on trial at the beginning and did really well. And others. Max Flick was an important player that we brought back from last year as well. So I know I'm missing some guys, but collectively in the back line, we feel like we've strengthened it, and we feel like the hope is that the way that they defend and everything protects Nick, as a young goalkeeper who's developing and learning behind him. But also it gets a little bit contagious. And so, the conversations I was having with Mikey Maldonado, for example, who played a couple different positions for Madison in North Texas the year before. But for me, I see him exactly how he's being like right now. I see him as one of the best defensive midfielders in the league that covers a lot of ground, and his ability to close space and do things. And that thing, I feel like it gets contagious. Asking guys that came in that are not known for their defending to be high pressing. When you think of Minson, you don't think of Rafa defending, you don't think of Louis defending. You think of them on the ball and that kind of stuff. And so trying to make them more two-way player, where of course we want to enjoy the what they bring on the ball, but also understanding that if we're going to be aggressive and create opportunities in the opposition's half, everyone has to work and everyone has to be able to press, connected and together and all that. They have guys like Olex and Garrett that can lead the line as well, and their pressure, and Preston, and the list goes on. But when we think of our players, we don't just think of them with the ball and the things they can do, but the collective idea to be a solid defensive unit with whatever 11 players we have on the field is the concept. And I think there's a level of disappointment right now just in the last couple of games, obviously, in terms of goals allowed and everything from where we feel like we're capable of performing and where we have been. So but we all know it's a long season. You're not gonna be at your best every single moment. So for the guys, I think the messaging is continue to be that's what wins games. And I think game before last we go up to Knoxville and I thought had a very strong defensive performance in terms of keeping the shutout and keeping the chances limited. And then up at Madison, we weren't at our best and it showed. So it's pretty clear. We defend well. We achieve more, and I think the guys understand that.
So you were pretty humble about some of the players that you mentioned. Now let's talk about the pivotal day that really kicked North Carolina's season into gear, and that was League One Day One, where North Carolina FC turned a lot of heads with a lot of the announced signings that they had that day. How did the conversation go with club owner Steve Malik when you told him that you wanted to sign players like Luis Perez, Daniel Navarro, Shaq Adams, and then exercise the options on some of those other high-profile players, like you said, Olex Anderson, Shaq Adams, Nick Holiday, Nelson Flores Blanco, Christian Lou Young, Jane Cervania, Garrett McLaughlin. I mean, the list goes on and on. If you look at that list and you presented that proposal to the club owner, how did that conversation go?
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, both Steve Malik and then Kurt Johnson, who's head of soccer for us, have been extremely supportive, and throughout this process, been able to have very good dialogue and conversation about what we were trying to do, and again, I think the idea of becoming more competitive this year and surrounding our group and the roster makeup not being so many young guys. I think there's a balance that you have to create where it's a blend of young players that need to develop, but you can't roll out 6 7 under 20s that are still finding their own experience in a starting 11 and expect to have quality. And I think we've seen that over the last couple of years where we would have great starts to games, and then every it was like Groundhog's Day, 65th minute, you look down and see whoever you're playing against, the three guys they're bringing in, and we're bringing in three academy guys or younger players, and it is what it is. And I found a lot of joy in giving players debuts and that kind of thing. But I think for this year's team, it's a bit different. It's clearly much deeper. And sometimes these off-season builds kind of have domino effects that lend one player to want to come to us just based on one of his teammates or somebody he respects joining the group. And so the first thing was whose options do we exercise? And like you said, the list of quality players that come back, everybody kind of goes, okay, it's a good core. And then if I think Navarro was the first one that we signed. And then Danny's talking to me. He's like, I think we got a chance to get Rafa. If you want Rafa to come, I was like, yeah, I'd like Rafa to come.
Yeah, I
So
might. Yeah.
yeah. We'll go have that conversation with Rafa. So, but it became, and then I think as it was going on, and a lot of these guys, I mean, League One, it's all the clubs have players that are ambitious, and so the off season always kind of becomes how can you help support players that if they do get an opportunity to play at a higher league, for us, we want to support that. I don't want players here that have opportunities elsewhere and be able to move up because that's who we are and that's what we stand for. And obviously that's all within reason. But I think as we had to kind of let things play out with certain other players that had some opportunities in USL championships, had some interest, but maybe didn't pan out exactly like they wanted it to. And it just kind of happened at different speeds. But yeah, I mean, it's like you said, you sign one, you bring back the players that you do, and all of a sudden Louis becomes interested. All of a sudden Mikey becomes interested, and others, throughout the whole off season, we were just having great conversations with these players about what we were trying to build and the year that we thought we could have. And still, obviously super excited about the remaining 20 games. There's a ton of season to play, but with this group that we have and how they're all going to be able to contribute in different ways throughout different moments. So
So this season is the first time an NCFC player has been recognized as Player of the Month, and that was Rafa Mensing in April. There's yet to be any NCFC players recognized on the first or second all league teams at the end of the season. How many players on your team do you think are going to get on those teams this season after the run you've had so far?
So you're saying no NCFC players made either first or second team last year?
Correct.
I thought Garrett did. But I could be wrong. Anyhow, I would tell you that I think all of the guys, there's a certain level of interest in those kinds of awards, and that's kind of what it is. I think that the way that we look at it, and obviously the messaging for what we do, is not who's going to get Player of the Week, who's going to get Player of the Month, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's nice to be recognized and all that, but I think the guys want to play well, they want to win games, and they want at the end of the year for their body of work to be what other clubs and higher levels will look at and say, we need to recruit this player, we need to do that, or whatever it may be. I would love it if we have guys all over those teams, because that means that we've been successful and we've done that. But that's I don't think the singular focus of what it is.
And I just double checked that stat. And yes, you are correct, John. Garrett McLaughlin was a first teamer last season.
I thought so.
Yeah. Well, now speaking of some of the other players that have joined, there are several players on your team who are, being called up to international duty. I mean, look at just recently, Jaden Cervania was called up to Puerto Rico. You had Nelson Flores Blanco playing for El Salvador last year, Oaks Anderson, and then Raheem Summersall. So what is it like being in the locker room knowing that you have guys that are being hyped up so much that are being called up to represent their country on the biggest stage?
I think it's fantastic, and it just speaks towards the quality, not just in our club, but across the league. To be honest, I love when I see not just our guys that are getting opportunities, but you look across the league and see different players at different clubs that are having international opportunities, and it just speaks to the quality overall. I think for our four guys, I mean, Jaden's away right now with Puerto Rico, Raheem's away with St. Kitts and Nevis, and Oleg's has been recently with St. Vincent and Grenadines and everything, and then Flores right now is waiting on some travel documents to get finalized for him to be able to go and join El Salvador probably either early next week or right then thereafter. So I mean, for us, it's fantastic, and I think that these players, the opportunities they get, the development that comes with playing in these type games and these types of environments, there's no replacement for it. So I think they look at it as great opportunities. We're certainly supportive of it. It gives opportunities for other players while they're away, and other players have opportunities to step up and hopefully make the most of those moments and build and grow on them. And then when the guys come back from international duty, you can always tell an uptick in the training quality and kind of the feel about everything of what's going on. So I think at good clubs you're going to have that problem, and it's a good problem to have.
And can I ask you, John, too, is how exactly does that process work if they're getting called up to the national team? Like, do the federations reach out to you guys ahead of time to find out if they're going to be available for that? Is it something where you have to release them if they ask?
No, I don't think you have to release them. And we've tried to be very supportive and flexible in terms of what we've done. I mean, the usual process is that you'll get a letter from the federation, an email, with an invitation that says we're calling in so and so. Would you release him for these dates and that kind of thing? And 99% of the time there's not even a thought, and it's just, yeah, of course, we'll support it. And sometimes there's okay, well, you want him to come on Saturday, but we have a game on Saturday. Can he come on Sunday type thing? Simple little logistic stuff. And there's been specific players that I have felt deserved opportunities with the nationalities they represent that haven't been getting called to the national teams, and so sometimes I take it upon myself to reach out directly to the federation, kind of give the whole "you don't know me," but I've got a player that either has represented your country previously or should have an opportunity to represent, and a few of the guys that have gotten called in, I think, has gotten the ball rolling from that standpoint as well. So it's certainly something that we want to help support these players, because you blink and all of a sudden your playing days are over, and so as much awesome opportunities and good quality as you can get into it, we want to have that happen for our guys.
And who are some of those players that you've reached out to the federations?
Yeah, I'll keep that with me.
Ah,
I'll keep that with me.
so
But every time a player gets called in, it's awesome. It's great for the group and it's good for them individually.
and you mentioned an uptick in their performance, in training and all that kind of stuff when they return from international duty. Do you ever work with those federations to develop any sort of um, a training protocol for these players, either leading up to their appearance or afterwards, preparing them for the next stage in their development?
Yeah, and I think it's federation specific. It's country specific, basically, as to some countries aren't bothered by what we're doing here, and they just want their player for the time being, and others are thinking about it kind of like you're saying. If their competitive calendar that they're going to have a camp for is going to include these two games, how do we build into that, or how do we also manage minutes so that we're not putting a guy on a plane the next morning after having played 95 minutes or whatever it may be. So we can kind of talk through that with specific federations and figure it out.
Let's see. We're going through the list of questions that we have here, and it seems like we're covering quite a few of them within these answers. So we're just
Yeah.
trying to find one. Let's see. Okay. Um, I'll kind of ask this one too. Uh, this time last season, NCFC was in fourth place, down from second place in week 12. But by the end of the season, NCFC was sitting at the bottom of the table. Is there an intangible feel around the club like this season is different? And is that something that the fans would be able to buy into and I guess just kind of a pitch as to why the fans should continue to believe, because obviously you guys are still doing a great job and you guys are getting it done on the field. But is there anything that you would like to say to the fans, just to um, for maybe some of the people that have questions like, oh, is this going to continue, or anything like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's no replacement for proving it on the field, and so for us, I think we look at it as every game we have to go out and we're going to take a lot of other teams' best shots and that kind of stuff, and we're looking forward to those challenges, but we have to continue to prove it, and I think in last year, like you said, second place, and there was a moment where everybody's kind of going, okay, so this is not like 2021, this is 2022, and it's going to be better, and then we had a 3 game road stretch where we're out to Fuego and lose a kind of weird one, and then we're at Greenville midweek and we lose. We had Richmond on the Saturday and lose, and I think within 7 days we had gone down to whatever we were on the table, but there was just a different feeling, and I don't know that we had the total kind of I guess feeling within the locker room to be able to handle that and again work ourselves through it. Where this group is it is different. It's like you said, and you can sense that the expectation is to be able to continue to push forward in every moment and be competitive in every game, and the expectations that we have on ourselves are high. And so I don't know that we had those in the last 2 years, and so that is a bit different in terms of how we're looking at it. But like I said at the beginning, I think for the fans, they're going to appreciate all that. That's all going to be great. Go win games, and I think that's what we have to go do. And obviously we're looking at. I've got one eye on the Lexington game tonight and seeing how they're going and preparing for Sunday. And but it'll be nice after kind of an extended away stretch that we'll be back at our home field on Sunday and look to get a result against Lexington and my good buddy Stocks. But yeah, so I think for us, we just got to continue to prove how our season's going to go by each game, one at a time.
And speaking of that away stretch of matches, you have 4 wins and you have 2 losses. Uh, you've earned more points on the road than you have at home. How have you switched that sort of mentality to be so dominant on the road?
Well, I mean, I think again, it's helping the players prove to themselves what they're capable of doing, and we've had strong starts in certain games, and obviously the Omaha game comes to mind when within 5 minutes it's a certain way because we've started off on the front foot and things have been going in that direction. But there's a belief of the group that no matter where we are, we feel we can be competitive and be successful, and I think as the pendulum swings over the course of the season, we're going to win more games at home. We're going to be more successful at home and that kind of thing, and having the ability to also look back on in terms of results we've already gotten on the road and look at the calendar for the rest of the year and be able to say, well, we've won there before. We've shown ourselves we can do that, or this is very similar to so and so, and figuring that out. And I think the games that we've lost on the road, have been obviously close and competitive and all that, and it's somewhat similar. Madison didn't feel like a 3-0 game this past weekend, but you look up the scoreboard and it's 3-0, right? They've had 3 shots and 3 goals, and we weren't effective in terms of how we finished plays and that kind of thing, and whatever. But it's always a learning moment, and it's always something that if you're going into the next game feeling like you have belief, that's everything.
In CONCACAF nature, have you experienced any of the away trip, uh, I don't know, antics that you commonly hear about, uh, in hotel rooms and blocking off roads and all that kind of stuff?
No, none of that. I think most of the things in our league that would be any kind of away travel kind of stuff would be, I don't think at the fault of anybody, but just kind of how it works out. If you've got the tiny locker room and the other team has the nice massive locker room, then that's based on the facilities that they have. That's always fun. But we're big believers in embrace all the challenges, put them all together. Make it that much more that you got to overcome or whatever it may be. But no, nobody's giving me the alarm clock at 4 in the morning or sent the vodka or whatever to the room. So we haven't had that yet. So we'll see.
Did you ever experience any of that when you were playing for the national team, the youth national team?
Nah, not as much. I mean, we got to travel and play in some really great places. We had our World Cup qualifying. This is a long time ago. This is '96. We had our U17 World Cup qualifying in Trinidad and Tobago. And I do remember that there were Trinidad and Tobago fans and everything kind of in and around our hotel, and not trying to let us sleep and the whole thing before we played Trinidad and Tobago. Um, but yeah, minor stuff. It's not the stuff you see on Sky Sports and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And okay, so I got to ask this. So you have the academy that has 16,000 players. You have a successful, USL 2 team. You have a successful USL 1 team. Are there any internal discussions of NCFC self-promoting back to USL championship and, maintaining a USL 1 club at the same time?
That's okay. Yeah, I mean that's kind of a two-part question. I think there's definitely internal dialogue about what the future of the club is, and I won't be specific because that's for our owners and front office to say. But absolutely, there's a reason that the club made a movement to USL League One. I think there's a reason to stay in League One, but then there's also the opportunity to look at what we want the future to be for the club as well. So I think that's one, and absolutely, I think it's a club that's not closed-minded. It's not okay. We're just going to doing this, and we're not just thinking about the now. We're planning for the future, and when does that moment happen, and making sure that you're ready for whatever that transition is to whatever it becomes. To have a championship and a League One team, I don't know that I mean, I've heard the idea before, but at the same time, I don't know that it's something that we would actually ever see. To pull that off would be interesting. And the fan base alone would be. You'd have to be very clear as to what each club was, what the purpose of each team was, right? This group's trying to win games, this group's trying to develop players, and what's the overlap between the two, and that kind of thing. So it would be unique. It would be the first, right, that has a championship in League One under one umbrella, but
Yep.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. And the TST 7v7 tournament was in Wake Med Soccer Complex. Did you get to go to any of the games?
Yeah, so we were away at Knoxville that weekend. So the tournament started on Thursday. We had training Thursday morning. All the players and coaches were able to kind of walk over after our training, which is one of the fields that was kind of you didn't see on TV. We were on field 7 away from everybody else. But as soon as we were done, yeah, went out and watched it, and it just pleasantly surprised as to what I thought it was going to look like and what it ended up looking like. It was a great event. And there was a lot of passion played in the games. The target time rule I didn't understand at all until I saw it live, and then I was like, "This is awesome!" And we got to watch games Thursday, and then we were on the bus Friday, and then not back until after the final concluded on Sunday. But the other part for me that was really great, obviously, we had an NCFC Legends team that played. There's a lot of guys that had been at Carolina Railhawks and North Carolina FC that I had an opportunity to work with, and a lot of them are still in the area. And then there was also a Raleigh Rebels team, which was basically a lot of kids that had come through either Castle or North Carolina FC Academy or TFCA, that kind of stuff. But a lot of local people that had great soccer ties. So being able to watch them now a bit older and playing in this environment and that kind of stuff was really cool.
That's cool.
And the Duke Sevens too. I should keep them in the conversation. We had a few guys that were on the Duke Sevens as well.
Oh, nice. Did you challenge Ocho Cinco to a race?
I did not. I don't think he was there. I didn't see him Thursday. We
Oh,
were
didn't?
keeping our eyes peeled for no. But then all of a sudden I saw social media he was there, so I must have missed him. I saw Chris Paul. I saw some of these other guys, and obviously Dempsey's around our area as it is, so we knew he was going to be there. But I mean, the immediate turnaround for the facility, like Sunday night, they had already removed the entire stadium field,
Oh,
which is
wow.
planned. They do it every summer. They resod and get the rye out and bring the Bermuda in and that kind of thing. But they had already removed, like, the town of Cary facilities, guys, unbelievable. And the fields 2 and 3, where all the other fields that were outside the stadium, I mean, we were training on field 3 today, and it's just amazing how quickly they can get this stuff to bounce back. And all that. But I'm hearing that they're going to try to bring it back again next year. I'm hearing they're trying to raise it to 5 million instead of 1 million. They're trying to expand it, have regional qualifiers throughout the country, maybe even the world, that then lead it to the big thing there. So I think they certainly have found something that people like, and they're going to run with it.
Very cool.
Super cool.
Brian, you got any questions?
I think the only question that I have left in my head is what were your thoughts about that second game for Union Omaha at Caniglia Field with all the hail coming down on top of everybody out there?
I didn't know it was hailing until we left the locker room and started walking down, and all of a sudden you kind of come out from the overhang, and you're like, "Is that? Oh yeah, that's that." And immediately, but again, we had talked about, like I said, embracing the challenge of a road trip. I think in League One, you take a road trip, you're going to have a lot of things go right, a lot of things go wrong, and you can't let any of that affect how you step onto the field. And I thought our players, I mean, that game was a great start for us, right? We get a PK straight away and convert, and then stay on the front foot and be able to go. But I think all those little things, if you take them in the right way, the hail helps you. The bad weather helps you, and then the guys screaming helps you, and whatever. So we try to embrace all the challenges.
Let's turn our attention to this weekend's match when you play Lexington. Um, they just won this evening against Chattanooga. Uh, this is a Lexington team that's churning some results. How do you feel about that matchup?
Yeah, no, Lexington's a good team, and they're getting better, and you can see it in their results. You can see it in the way they play. Sam does a good job, and I think their roster, they've made a few additions and had a few guys get healthy that maybe weren't healthy at the beginning of the year. So yeah, I think it's going to be a big challenge for us on Sunday. One that we're looking forward to, and one that we're up for sure. But they have qualities, and again, I think it speaks towards the depth of the league. Everybody written off Fuego, like they were never going to win a game this year or something crazy like that. And Carrera Garcia gets back in the lineup and gets, because he was a guy we were after in the offseason as well, and had great conversations with him. But yeah, I think there is no, you know, there is no bad team in the league, and I think they're all growing. And Lexington's a great example of where they're at, and where their finish is probably not the same where they're at right now.
And when you play at Wake Med, since it's such a big field, do you obviously like, oh, I mean, I have to believe that you throw that factor into your game plan and into the style of play that you approach the match with. Is that right?
No, absolutely. I mean, you have to think of each field, and our home field, I think, is the nicest field in the league, to be honest. And I think it's the most wide open. Every time we have we have a home game, you see the opponent walking around with their phones on the stadium field, and taking videos of how awesome they think the field is. And so immediately, from a player standpoint, the opponent's going to be up for it because they're playing in a great place. And they like the surface, they like the field, all that kind of stuff. And I do think that take teams that play on like in Omaha when they're at the baseball field, last year, and then all of a sudden now they're coming into a larger field. I think it does tweak, what you can expect to have an opponent, how they're going to play, not only on their side of things, but then what can you how can you expect to be effective, knowing that they might defend a little differently on a larger space and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, we absolutely take into account our field, and where we feel we can be effective and that kind of things. Like, for example, we have a lot of pace, up front. So if there's more grass and more room to run, then, it depends on how the defense is sorted out for the opposition. But we feel like our field gives us opportunities to, you're going to see Olex getting behind more often on our field than you are on one of the college turf fields or something like that.
Yep. So you have, players over at Lexington like Amal Knight in goal. You have Tate Robertson on the back line. You have Diouf on the top line, with the forwards. Which matchup are you looking forward to watching or observing the most?
I don't have a single matchup that's going to be there. I mean, I think collectively they're a good group. I mean, and you look how Stocks sorted out tonight. I mean, to be able to bring in Balagoon at halftime, and all of a sudden, the defenders on the Chattanooga or whoever they're playing, they get used to a certain thing with Will for 45 minutes, and then you bring in a different type player. In that moment, I just think it speaks towards the ability to manage a roster and kind of go from there. So I think for us, the main thing is going to be, who do we expect to start, and how do we think they're going to go, and then what changes do we need to make sure we're anticipating as the game goes on. And so when I see their team sheet on Sunday at 2 p.m. before the 3 p.m. kickoff, we're immediately going to have an idea to say, okay, this is where we want to try to focus, and be aware of, knowing that at any moment in the second half, these three changes could happen, and it'll affect how we need to be able to adjust and make sure we're prepared for that.
Cool. Brian, you got anything?
We have one question here from the live chat, and
Ooh.
John, feel free to answer it, or if you don't want to answer it, that's fine too. But Tim from Ranting Blue Penguin Media would like to know who your favorite non-NCFC player in League One to watch is.
Oof, good question. because I'm such a, this is going to be a jaded answer, but because I'm such an NCFC guy, it's any of the former NCFC guys that are playing at different clubs. So I got a chance to see Robert Screen up at Madison this past weekend. And speak with him for a second. Got a chance to see Daniel Wu, who's came through our academy, who's playing that with Greenville Triumph. So anytime it's somebody that's either been in our environment from the academy standpoint or a former player, I got to see Sam Brotherton up at Madison. So I tend to root for the guys that I have a little bit of a connection with and all that. And all the guys that are leading the league and doing well, I hope they continue to do so, just not against us.
That's fair.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Well, John, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to sit down and chat with us for a bit. We really appreciate you taking the time to be a part of this episode.
Yeah. No, thank you guys so much for having me. Let me know if I can do anything in the future, and I'll keep watching and listening.
Awesome. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Thanks, Sean, and good luck the rest of the season.
Yeah, good luck.
Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
You too. Whew, man, that was fun.
It was a good interview.
Yeah.
John is a good guy. And
Yeah, he's a good guy.
you definitely got the NCFC answer there, which I think we were all kind of expecting, but
Yeah.
that's completely fair. I'd probably say the exact same thing too. So
And I think we have said the same thing. I mean, when we talk about Tormenta, we talk about Otieno. When we talk
Mhm.
about Richmond, we talk about Ani. I mean, and Molina. I mean, there are players, former Owls that are out there in the league that we still root for.
yeah, definitely.
It's an inherent bias.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
And Alex posting up in the chat's awesome work, guys. Thank you, Alex. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you,
Love the
Alex.
fact that you're still sitting there watching us and listening to us. Man, that was a fun conversation.
That was really good. Yeah, when he brought up the heckling in the stands, I purposely stayed a little bit quiet there.
Because you were one of them.
Yeah, definitely was.
I also loved what was it, like midway through you were just like, well, I mean, we're trying to find questions to ask you, but you've pretty much answered them all.
Yeah, we looked through everything there, and I mean, his answers were really well thought out and really cohesive. So I mean,
They were, yeah.
he just went over everything. I'm like looking here as he's talking. I'm looking down the outline, just like, nope, got that. Nope, got that. Nope, got that. Damn, he just
Yep.
answers everything without even having to be asked.
I didn't even send him the outline either.
Oh, perfect. Even better.
So I don't know if anybody knows this, but he also appeared on a podcast called NC Soccer Show. If you guys aren't familiar with them, go check them out because the interview that he had with them was also a really good one because it talked a lot about the mentality of his coaching style and how he approaches players and all that kind of stuff. It was a good one to listen to, and I mean, NC Soccer Show is a good one, anyways. I've listened to several other episodes, and they do some good stuff over there.
Mm-hmm. They definitely do.
But yeah, man. Oh man, I'm still sitting here like, man, that was fun.
Good interview.
Yeah.
And thanks for everybody in the chat too. Michael, I know we didn't get to all of your stuff. I didn't really want to derail the conversation with John talking about Union Omaha stuff. So, but yeah, it is Union Omaha tonight. Union Omaha night tomorrow night at Warner for the baseball team. I will be there. I got to go get my third kit Pride jersey tomorrow because they weren't open when I stopped there after work. At least they didn't look like they were, just because they had a game today. And apparently the Chasers are on a 7-game win streak, so hopefully they can continue that tomorrow.
Cool.
Michael Sharp also saying next Wednesday he's going to be back on track by winning with him attending, because when he attends Union Omaha matches in all competitions, 5 wins, 0 losses, and 1 draw. So,
ooh, get that man season tickets, Michael.
Yeah.
If you need tickets, just take mine.
We need to
Stop
get you
missing matches because obviously
in the
you're
stadium,
the lucky
Michael.
piece here.
We will get you in the stadium somehow, Michael. We need you there. That's awesome. And then Parliament needs more cowbell. I mean,
Yeah.
if you've got a fever, that's the only way to get rid of it is more
Yeah.
cowbell.
Yeah.
The only prescription is more cowbell.
Prescription. Yeah. What's that actor's name?
Christopher
Wasn't it
Walken.
like Chris? Yeah, Chris Walken. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep.
And the fact that nobody else on that set could get through that entire thing without laughing, even better. The only two people that didn't laugh were Christopher Walken and Will Ferrell.
Yeah. For me, it was when he was like doing his hip thrusts and his shirt was rising and his belly was just.
Yes. Just the hair, like the assorted hair on it too. Just and the big
I also
giant
loved
curls.
when he got what was it, Chris Parnell's face, and he was just like
right up by the microphone.
right up
Yes.
on the mic.
So you guys didn't get this at the top half of the show, so now you get it at the bottom half.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you stuck around after the interview, you get our takes on Saturday Night Live sketches.
See, if we'd have done this at the beginning of the episode, John would have looked around like, "Oh my God, what am I
John would
doing
have
here?"
he probably
Get me
would have
outta
just
here.
disconnected.
Yeah.
Actually, guys, I gotta go. Sorry.
Yeah.
Alex says he's here for it. So awesome.
Well, I didn't prepare any of the stuff for week 13. So, I mean, we can
Yeah,
just,
I didn't really go through it too closely. So,
but
yeah.
I think I found a cool stat. I kind of want to look into it a little bit more before I post anything. But if I do find it, I'll put it on our Twitter page. Um, I thank you everybody for responding and retweeting and all that kind of stuff. Um, the graphic that we posted, what was like Monday morning or something like that,
Mhm.
with the buy your club or whatever. I'm glad we got a good response out of that. We got a lot of fun messages from it. I have another graphic that I'm going to be putting on this coming Monday. Um, Brian and I were talking about it before we recorded, and he thought it was a good idea. So I'm going to shoot him a first draft of it on Sunday, get his approval, and then we'll put it out there again on Monday morning.
Mhm.
But yeah, aside from that, I mean, yeah, I didn't prepare any week 13 stuff. So
No.
yeah,
I will let the listeners and everything know that next week, if we do a show next week, it won't be till the latter half of the week. I'm leaving on Sunday to go down to Worlds of Fun with the kids, so I will not be back until Wednesday night for the Union Omaha match. So, um, just so everybody knows ahead of time.
so there you have it. Make sure you take your mics with you so you can get thoughts from the water slide line.
Thoughts from the water sideline? Well,
Yeah.
see, it'll be if it's on Wednesday, it'll be the driving back home because I will be back for the match that night. I don't want to miss.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss too many matches. I think I only have one more that I'm missing, but
And I just want to let everybody know that this is a giant step for Brian to acknowledge and admit to everybody that, or to announce to everybody that he's going down to Kansas City because, I mean, you're considered a terrorist according to
I
Kansas City.
yeah, I'm apparently a super dangerous ultra that is gonna sticker bomb and use flares. At least that's what Sporting Kansas City thinks, and they just conveniently forget that I'm on their ticket holder list too. But like, sure, yeah, yes, I'm gonna come and mess up the stadium that I come to 6 or 7 times a year. That makes sense.
Were you down there this past weekend? What was it? SKC in Austin?
Austin this weekend, yep.
You and Colin going head to head?
Yeah, he 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 went down to Vegas this week for work, and I sent him a Snapchat of the scoreline of that match as soon as it ended. So he did not say anything back.
Because it was what, like 4-1 or something like that?
4-1, yeah.
4-1.
hmm Alan Polito rounding back into form after his injury plagued season last season where he was out the whole year. So only in Kansas, world's fun is in Missouri. True. Yep.
Well, nice. I got nothing else, man. I'm tapped out
Yeah,
for
that's
stuff
pretty
tonight.
much that's it for me too. And it sounds like my kids are up. So yeah,
Awesome. Well,
perfect.
thank you everybody for watching and listening to the show. A big thank you to John for coming onto the show. Best of luck to him and North Carolina as they face Lexington this weekend. Tyler, you did not hear us say that. We're obviously going to be rooting for Lexington as well. We're dividing our allegiances here. I apologize, but thank you everybody. We had a great time tonight. Join us next week for another awesome show, and we'll continue lining up more interviews and bringing you more awesome content.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.